Back in March, I made alternative movie posters for the iconic Jaws and Dune 2, and you all seemed to gobble them up.
Yummy.
So in this video, I'm choosing 2 more blockbuster movies and tossing them into, you guessed it, the Photoshop cooking pot. My first movie pick is Back to the Future. It's another perfect movie to design a poster for, but with so many amazing alternative posters already out there, it probably took me a solid week of intense brainstorming just to come up with an idea.
Hello? Anybody home?
This is going to be our base plate, and the classic Johnny Be Good scene is what we're going to build our idea around. Once I've resized and positioned this asset, I'll reduce any colors and then make some small changes to the brightness and contrast. I now need to replace this guitar with the one that Marty McFly uses. I'll match the position of the existing guitar, tweak the brightness and contrast, and then mask away the bits of the guitar behind that we don't want to see. He's not currently holding the guitar, so let's fix that. I'll lower the opacity, I'll create a mask, grab a hard brush, and then we can just paint away the parts of the guitar so that we can see the fingers below. And same thing for the hand at the bottom, but for this one I'll use the pen tool, make a selection, and then hide those pixels. Okay, looks like he's holding the guitar now, so that's good. Let's make some changes to the lighting and colors. I'll fill it mostly with black with just a hint of red at the bottom. I think we're going to keep the contrast quite high, mostly black and white with just a pop of color here and there. But we'll see what works best more as time goes on. Let's fill the neck section with black. And I'm going to cover most of the body with black too. A simple gradient will be a nice start for the background. Select a soft round brush and just click a few times around the bottom. Something like that. Then using this screenshot from the film, we're going to grab some sections of clothing. First, we'll make a selection of this sleeve. We'll then resize that and move it into position. Quality isn't the best, so we'll need to clean up some of these edges with a hard brush. And then we'll simply do the same thing for the rest of the body, making selections of the parts we want and then moving them into the appropriate position. And adjust those levels. Now this is my first Back to the Future poster, so it'd be a crime not to get the DeLorean in there somewhere. We're going for a kind of double exposure piece. We're going to build a simple scene into the top section of the guitar, starting with the DeLorean, using some exposure adjustment layers to make some alterations to the highlights and shadows. I've then got a 3D element which we'll use for the flame trails. Just position it behind, we'll duplicate that and flip it for the other one. Alter the brightness and contrast, and then some solid color fill adjustment layers to create a little bit of fire glow. Alright, next up we're going to create a kind of time warp effect in front of the DeLorean, a little bit of electricity. For this, one of my assets from my fantasy overlay pack should be perfect. I think I'll grab one more asset from my pack. And just in case you're interested, this pack is available for purchase from phaserunner.com. This one will be ideal for creating that kind of time warp effect building in front of the DeLorean. Just gonna change the color. A nice electric blue. And a blue color fill layer set to screen to create a little bit of glow. Now I've got this car park asset. I think this will be a good element to build into the body of the guitar. The Twin Pines Mall car park is a popular setting from the film, and the simple white lines and structures should lend itself well to the composition. I'll then paint some simple white road markings which we can use further up the guitar neck. Like so. Alright, starting to take shape. Let's add a little bit of a smoky texture for the background, and then some light rays set to overlay. And then we'll add in that glistening guitar pick as seen in the movie. We've got a large section of negative space at the top, so this is going to be the perfect place to put our title. I'll get a rough position for it now and then refine the alignments later. We don't want it to stand out quite so much, we're going to set that to soft light. And one bit of smaller text underneath, a Robert Zemeckis film. Yeah, pretty sure that's not how it's spelled. Zemeckis. Gotcha. Place it around about there and set it to soft light also. Not far off now, just going to make those final changes. And here it is, my finished poster for Back to the Future. I haven't made too many late additions. I think the lightning effects around the neck of the guitar is probably the biggest change and helps to fill in certain areas that were just feeling a little bit empty. There's still a few improvements that could be made, but pretty pleased with this one overall, considering it's a pretty different style from my usual work. Next up is Moana 2. With only the initial trailer to work from, there was still plenty of ideas to explore. My first thought was to create a boat snack poster.
Boat snack?
However, with a poster like this, I feel it's more important to capture the movie's vibrant aesthetic. For this poster, we're going to go with a top-down view of the ocean. We've got some simple images to start with, bird's eye view of the sea. We're going to get a little bit conceptual with this one. It might look pretty simple visually, but I think it's going to be a tricky one to pull off. Right, we've got the basic groundwork for our ocean done. Next, let's add some sandbanks. I'm using Adobe stock for this, and you can try it too. You get 10 free images with a 30-day trial. I'll leave a link in the description. Things like this will help give the piece a little bit more variation in shapes and colour. Right, here's where we start to get a little bit more creative. I've got a nice layer of coral reef, and then I'm going to overlay the Moana symbol from the title, create a mask, and then paint back in some of the edges of the coral. And the aim here is to make it look like this coral is naturally forming the Moana symbol. Something like this. It's also underwater, so we'll give it a little bit of blur, lower the opacity, then mask away the edges with a soft round brush. Cool, now we're just going to build up the detail around it with another image overlaid on top. Alright, that's looking okay. Now that's done, we're just going to hide those layers for a bit. And next up, I'm going to use a custom brush to create some kind of underwater trails. Nope. Nah. Yep, that's the one. With this, I'm going to try some motion blur. Just a bit. And then I'll alter the shape with the warp tool. Don't worry, it's going to become clear what I'm trying to achieve very soon. And I'll do a wider, thicker stroke underneath, a bit more blur, and set those to overlay. Alright, not too bad. I would say that kind of looks like an underwater trail. Let's do a few more. Okay, maybe at this point you can probably start to see what I'm trying to do. But yeah, just simply repeating these steps until we have this. Can you see it? Hopefully you can. Let's add in a few bubbles to the end of the water trails. I'll then use a brush to paint in a water ripple effect. Set that to overlay, and we'll just dot this texture around some of the trails for a bit of added detail. And then the missing piece of the puzzle, bring back the coral reef which is forming the O, and that should spell Moana. Now we've got these water trails, but what's causing them? Well, I've seen some dolphins in the trailer, so that's what we're going to use. I've cut out a load and we're just going to get those into position. And this is probably going to take ages because composition is tricky sometimes. Ta-da! How does that look? I think it's okay. I'm probably going to make changes, but that'll do for now. Let's get these dolphins blended with the scene. Just going to blur the bits that are underwater and overlay a color similar to the ocean. Something like that, and then I'm just going to repeat these steps for the rest of the dolphins until it looks like this. Okay, now we just need to join up some of the trails to the dolphins a little bit. These ones need to be a little bit more subtle so that the Moana text is the most prominent part. Sweet, next we're going to build the boat we've seen in the trailer. She's definitely had an upgrade, bigger than the original. For this, I'm just going to use various 3D assets, and I think we'll place it at the top of the poster like the boat's moving upwards with the dolphins in tow. Duplicate that and flip it to the other side. Place a plank by here. And for the last bit, we're going to add an oar. A little bit of shadow underneath so it feels close to the ocean. And then bring back those water ripples to give the boat a sense of movement. Not far now, just going to add in those final details, fill in some of that negative space so there's a bit more going on, and then we'll be able to call it finished. Here's what we've ended up with. The trickiest and most crucial aspect was making sure the word Moana was readable but without being completely in your face, and I guess time will tell whether I succeeded in finding the right balance there. If you want to see me create an alternative poster for the movie Twisters, be sure to click the video above.